Hello again, my name's Tom. Welcome to the channel that I call Three Basket Living. It's just a place where I like to encourage people not to put all their eggs in one basket, having a backup to a backup. Before we get started, I want to remind people that my primary goal is to share thoughts and opinions and information that I'm thinking might be helpful to someone else out there. So if you find anything that might be beneficial or edifying in this video on this channel, all I ask you to do is pass it along, pay it forward, share the information. You don't have to promote the channel, if you will. Just pass it along and share the information. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing the progress of my no-till garden that I till. And somebody brought it to my attention that I'm not pointing out in each and every video what I'm doing when it comes to this tilling, a no-till garden. So people might be a little bit confused about it. So you're going to have to go back and watch some videos if you want to catch up and come along. But I want to reiterate here that my no-till garden is being tilled for the last 3 years, once or twice typically, in order to create a foundation, which I talk about. So I want to show some results or progress of what we're doing today, but I want you to understand my no-till garden is equivalent to something like this right here. You may have something like this. It's called a no-till device, right? Maybe for your phones or laptops. What this is wireless headsets that I use when I'm driving or I'm working and I want to answer phone calls. I got a couple earpieces in here, and if you notice here, I'm using my hands to pick up the case, open the lid, bring out the earpiece, attach it to my ear, and then I have to tap it to answer a phone call. I have to fiddle with my phone to make sure I got a Bluetooth connection. So we're using our hands to get it in place and set up and operating to become a no-hands device for a period of time during the usage. And that's what my tilling is equivalent to go to a no-till garden. I'm creating a foundation that I explained in previous videos, and I hope I don't have to do it in every video. Anyhow, this is what's going on right now. We tilled it. I did not follow my own protocol through the course of the winter, which was just basically I wanted to try to till the ground in at least once a month, if not just 2 or 3 times before this next growing season. I didn't do that. I also did not do something that I highly encourage and recommend, if you have the ability to do so, is to do the solarization. That's why I got to come out here and I got to have to manage so much or deal with these grasses and weeds that are coming up in here. We see a lot of content out there and people making claims, and I'm the kind of guy that if I can, I want to be able to reinforce those claims with a little bit of show and tell and evidence. I think that's important because I've fallen for crap in my life before, and I'm sure many of you are. If you're wearing a mask right now and social distancing, you're falling for a lot of crap. So I want to reiterate that everything that you see around me and where I'm standing, this was all dense woods, just like what's surrounding me. So we started from scratch. And as you can see, because the main concern was about the nitrogen being robbed and things being able to grow. Well, since I'm not putting a covering on this year, because I stated previously that I want to go without adding any more organic material into here until I have finished what is already present, what I've added in, because I've outpaced, I think, the ability of my tiller, which I am using as a 160cc mixer. That's basically what I'm using my tiller for. As all this organic carbon material is broken down, what I'm doing is I'm trying to use that thing to dig up on this hard clay floor with some sand and rock, just clay and rock primarily. And I'm getting it incorporated. I'm mixing it in. And then I'm going to start from there. Once that takes place after this year, the intent is that this fall, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that tiller as a mixer. I understand some of the concerns about the tilling portion of it, but from my perspective and my evidence that I have seen throughout the course of this, is I am seeing the microbes, which I cultivate on my own and I incorporate into here and I make sure they're in abundance. I've seen the mycelium quickly regenerate itself and form up again on the soil after I've tilled. It's kind of like the some of the plants like the trumpet vine. Comfrey is a good one. You know, the rhizomes. If you leave just a piece of that rhizome in the soil of the trumpet vine or the yucca plant and comfrey, it takes off. A new plant, it just keeps taking off. And that's what I'm seeing with my fungi and mycelium. It gets broken up, and I'm kind of interrupting the network and everything, but it heals itself very quickly so long as the environment is conducive to it. And I try to use nature to do that. I'm still using nature and the natural course of things and the elements and the availability of microbes and fungi and so forth to do what it does best, what nature does. I'm just going about it in a way to speed up the process. I'm managing it to where I don't have to wait 11, 12, 15, 17 years to allow this process that happens out there on the forest floor to take place. For you folks out there that are complaining about me tilling my no-till garden, remember the hands-free device, is that Paul Gauci worked that ground with plows and tillers for 17 years before he implemented what he did in his orchard into his garden. 17 years. I'm trying to avoid waiting 17 years, and it's working beautiful as long as I keep the natural concept of things in mind and implement them or encourage that to take place in my garden. I wish I had everything just full of vigor, 3 feet tall to show you right now, but it's just not the case. I'm in zone 6 here in the Ozarks, and been a lot of rain, and the weather's been pretty dramatic as far as the fluctuation in temperatures. I have reached 83 degrees out here for a day, and a few more days of upper 70s, and then we drop down in the upper 30s to lower 40s. The plants don't know what the hell to do, because what it looks like here on the surface, you'll see all this wood chunks, and they're probably going to remain like this throughout this season here in 2020. And the reason is because they're not covered. If they're up on the surface, the wood on the surface here is not going to break down, not near as fast, because it's exposed to the air, it's exposed to the sunlight, and it's really got not that much to do with the wood itself. It's got to do with the microbes and the moisture. So they're going to be dried out here on the surface and in direct sunlight, and your microbes and fungi don't flourish in that. Now, the part of them that are in contact with the soil, they're going to start, still breaking down a little bit during the course of this season. So let's take a look. I'm going to grab my shovel here, get this thing to follow me. Hold on here. All right, there we go. So I'm going to grab my shovel here, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick a spot where you can see it's not following me here. Hold on. There we go. Now I'm going to dig in here. I'm just picking a spot, and right now what I'm doing, getting down in there, I'm getting about, I don't know, I'm going to take a guess here, about 6-7 inches, and then I'm hitting that hard clay and rocky surface down below. All right, and that's what my tiller needs to reach in order to get more mixing. So as I break this up here, you see the big chunks on the surface, but when we look down below here, this stuff, I got clay in there, which is my intentions, and what I really want to do is incorporate this in with all this organic material. So I got some binding effects off that clay with all this other sand and silt and the carbon organic material that's breaking down. And that's what I want. That's what I want. And then at the end of the season, when I mix all this up again to get some of this bigger stuff, back into underneath the ground, then it's all going to break down. And then the next season, or maybe by the end of this season, I may even do it anyway, I'm going to be able to cover it, and it's going to stay wet and moist and full of microbes, and the mycelium will start networking back through it again. But down at the bottom, where my shovel is reaching, you see where this clay, now it's no longer red clay. It's starting to turn on me, which is absolutely a good sign for me. And then, when I put the covering, my final covering on, what I'm going to call my final covering, the roof of the house, it's going to protect all this. That is the point of the wood chips in the end. Okay, remember, you don't want those wood chips you're covering the roof of your garden to deteriorate and break down quickly. You wouldn't go buy shingles for your house, say a 25, 30 year shingle, and want them to break down and deteriorate, say in 5 years or 7 years. You wouldn't want that. You want that covering because it protects everything below, the infrastructure, the framing of the house and all the interior workings of the house and the foundation itself. That's what the roof does. So that's what I want my wood chip covering to do. So let's go over a few things. One thing I want to point out is the beds that are part of this garden. They're just on the other side of the fence. These beds are handled and managed exactly the same way as on inside the fence of the garden. So we have the onions going, garlic, 3 beds of garlic. Take a final glance here. We have our some butternut squash. That is going to be so much squash for me, believe it or not. Some cucumbers over there. Even the tomatoes with these low temperatures that I transplanted, probably way too early, they are doing okay. And everything seems to be pretty vibrant. I'm sorry, I lied to you. This is the butternut. That is the luxury pie squash. And everything seems to be looking just fine, healthy, don't seem to be deprived of any nutrients and nitrogen. Here we take a look. I'm going to replant corn. Some of it came up, but it was planted way too early. I wasn't anticipating the drop back into the 30s, and I came way too early in the abundant rain, so I probably lost a lot of the seed due to rot and so forth. And same thing with my broccoli. Everything over here has been direct sown into this tilled in wood chip substrate here. And I look at this butternut, everything seems to be healthy. Bush beans, I think Blue Lake. Peas, which I have got to get trellised or wired. Red swan beans. There's the zucchini, nice and healthy. Beets on the outside beds. All that wood chips got tilled in. I did not do my asparagus bed. You probably don't see a whole lot. I eat it about every day, every other day. And my garlic bulb experience, spaghetti squash, nice and healthy. The rest of all this green stuff, like I said before, all the weeds and grasses that I'm going to be dealing with because of my lack of discipline of smothering that out through solarization. Right here, everything that is uphill here, all of this is coming downhill off this hilltop. That's another challenge that I've had. And that's why you see me using these cedar logs and everything to help control water flow and stuff like that. And all this has been trying to be worked, with my box blade and stuff like that. And I don't have hardly any growth of any weeds, clover, grasses, or anything like that, anything uphill of my garden. If I turn around and I come down on the lower side of my garden, on this hillside, everything even after I run my box blade over it, because I'm trying to work this ground because I got other plans out here, everything just quickly, you know, all the seed that falls on the ground or is already present, it just quickly turns into almost like a yard out here that I got to come out here and mow. And the same thing on this side. If I were to look directly downhill, it would be like this way. That is an indication of me of all the nutritional value that comes out of my garden build. When I get the heavy rains and I get that subsurface water flow transitioning down here, it seems to be feeding the rest of the lower part of the hillside. We're about the third week of May almost, and I put this out here earlier because I wanted to get a reading on my soil temperature. 60 degrees, that's better than 57, 56, 57 on my soil temperature that I have been experiencing. I cannot explain this on every video, I don't think, but people that have followed along, you know, I'm probably going to need some help from you guys that do kind of follow along. I mean, there's thousands of you now. I'm just shocked that are subscribed to this channel. If you have the time and if you have the words and you understand what I'm doing and you see comments down below that are critiquing what I'm doing, trying to compare me to other people's ways, they don't realize that those people they're talking about we're a lot alike. We're doing the same thing, utilizing the natural way of doing things in order to accomplish, you know, a garden. I am about regeneration of the soil and the soil food web. That's what I do. That's why I make my own fertilizer. That's why I culture my own IMOs, you know, indigenous microorganisms, and incorporate. There's an abundance of it, and there's evidence here. Soil temperature right now is only 60 degrees. I just showed you that. I'm showing you the green growth. I don't buy things. I start everything from seed. This is a result of all the things that have been shown in the videos, and I'm having wonderful success. So you may want to help me out because I don't have the time, and sometimes I don't have the patience. I agree, it's one of my weaknesses. But if you see somebody that don't understand what we're doing here and what we're trying to accomplish, maybe you can comment on their comment and kind of inform them for me and bring them up to speed. And I hope you guys understand. I'm not afraid to be called a prepper. That's what I am. And this gardening stuff, this is not a gardening channel, but it's about food and it's about security. It's about independence. That's why I'm bringing you along on what I believe can help us all out greatly at a low cost and lower maintenance and more sustainable natural way of producing food for ourselves without all the depletion of the nutritional value of that stuff that we're getting from the stores. Have a nice day. May all your branches become full of fruit, and I hope that I'll see you around next time. Hooah!